Good afternoon. My name is Chaplain Wallace L III of the United States Navy Chaplain Corps. And today I want to talk about what I would call my NSRRP, which pertains to quality of life and has a huge association with psychosocial spiritual model. For many of us who know a little bit about the Navy Chaplain Corps, you know what we tend to focus on is spiritual readiness in regards to mission readiness. So today, I just wanted to present or add to what is already there. And what are some of the things that we tend to focus on when tracking or trying to get a gauge on spiritual readiness? We track physical fitness, we track mental resilience, we track unit cohesion. But there's one domain, arguably the most powerful, which is driven by our human endurance under pressure. And sometimes it goes underestimated. That is the spiritual domain. And today, we're going to unpack why that matters, not just for faith, but for mission readiness, retention, and for the future of the force. Let's ground this in reality. Sailors today are navigating a lot. We have operational stress, separation from family, identity and purpose, moral injury, and ethical dilemmas. The Navy does address these, but here's the issue. We address them sometimes in silos. We separate things by our biological factors, our psychological factors, some of our social aspects, and more importantly, the spiritual component. And so the special thing about the chaplain is we can use a biopsychosocial spiritual model. We're not necessarily charged with making assessments that our psychologists make, our physicians make, or even our sociologists. But as spiritual providers, it is our job, we are charged with the holistic responsibility of providing and serving our Marines, our sailors, and our Coast Guards. It's just that the biopsychosocial spiritual model, it breaks human performance into four domains. We're thinking about biology, that's sleep, nutrition, physical health, psychology, that's resilience, cognition, emotional regulation, social, trust, relationship, cohesion, and spiritual, purpose, meaning, value, moral alignment. Here's the key insight. You can't optimize one while neglecting the other. And more importantly, the spiritual domain often drives others because the purpose fuels resilience and resilience sustains performance. According to the Navy Chaplain Corps, spiritual readiness is the strength of spirit that enables the warfighter to accomplish the mission with honor. That's not abstract, that's operational. When a sailor faces combat decisions, loss of shipmates, ethical dilemmas, they default to policy. And not just sailors, that can be our leadership, who the chaplain is responsible for. That's other staff officers. We have a huge responsibility to keep a gauge on the temperament of the command. The spiritual readiness in action is one of the biggest aspects of sustaining consistency within our services. Strong unit cohesion correlates with reenlistment and performance. Structured daily routines reduce stress and suicide risk. Spirituality and meaning making are linked to lower PTSD and better recovery. Studies that we get from our RAND models and many scholars helps us in regards to finding the meaning in our force multipliers. This isn't just theology. This is about human performance. This is about the science that we're trying to get, or at least I'm trying to get everyone to understand. And If we're thinking about the term that I would like to use for what I want to give personally from my background, I call it the NSRRP. And so what do we do with this? I developed a framework and we'll break it down. It's called the Navy Spiritual Renewal and Readiness Program. Of course, it's chaplain led, but operationally aligned. It works in three phases. Well, one, we have to make assessments. Spiritual readiness guide is definitely the course or the basis of what we would like to use. And then we're bringing in the biopsychosocial spiritual model. That's our baseline metrics. And secondly, intervention. We need retreats, reflections of practices, small group dialogues, worship sessions, our value-based sessions. So, these things are very common. These things help create balance in regards to the work-life stress and bringing in the quality of life. And lastly, sustainment is key. 30, 60-day follow-ups, routine development, peer accountability. This isn't just a retreat model. This is how we recharge and refuel our systems. It's a readiness system. Well, you may be wondering, how do we track all these things? What are our KPI indicators? What, is our meaning making, our making it measurable? Now, here's where it gets real for leadership. If you can't measure it, you can't defend it. There was a famous chaplain that once stated, if it's not written down, it's poof. So how do we introduce our key performance indicators? Well, we have to study things like sleep so we can get a gauge on what's going on biologically. From a psychological perspective, we're dealing with resilience scores. When we're talking about the social aspect, unit cohesion. And when we're talking about spirituality, our spiritual readiness, of course, that's the spirit. What does that impact? Well, making sure everyone's deployable. Well, we're thinking about deployability, retention, operational outcomes. This does something powerful. It translates the chaplain impact into readiness language. That's how you influence policy. What am I getting at here? The key is about spiritual fairness. And let's address something critical. This is not about promoting my faith. Although that is one of my main responsibilities. There's two sides of the collar. And let's never forget that one side, you are called. I am a minister of the gospel of Christ. That is my religious organization. I have an endorsing agency that brought me in. But the military also requires me to be an officer. That means I have to understand a whole nother aspect. And how do I bring those two worlds together? How can I relate them? How can they coexist? And this type of research does. So this is about spiritual fairness. And what does that mean? I'm looking for equal access, equal support, equal dignity, whether it's a sailor who's religious, spiritual, or non-religious, a commander, a senior officer, a flag officer, a senior enlisted, junior enlisted, or other. Again, it's our job to get a gauge on the entire command. And this is our ability. This is our power source. How do we connect these things together? Many of us, and not just our staff members, but we also serve each other. People still wrestle with meaning, purpose, and identity. And the chaplain corps exists to support them all. Moral injury can be high, PTSD, and it's our job to create the best programs that can help reduce or navigate through these spaces to reduce the amount of damage that comes out, or possibly to alleviate it altogether. And why this changes the future. If implemented correctly, this model does three things. It improves the quality of life. It strengthens mission readiness, justifies increased resourcing for the chaplain corps. Because now we're not just saying chaplains are important. What are we doing? We're proving it. Because chaplains are mission critical. We are a mission critical asset, and we play a huge part in the day-to-day of the function of any command, ship, or otherwise, in the military in general. We are the heartbeat of every command and every unit. But it is up to us to make sure that we're doing our part. At the end of the day, to make sure that the warfighter doesn't just fight with weapons, but they also fight with their soul and their spirit. They fight with belief, conviction, purpose. And if we ignore that, we're not just missing a huge variable, we're missing the center of gravity. That is why spiritual readiness is mission readiness. And when we implement the tools that I'm recommending, I truly believe will take us to the next level. It will make sure that all of us finish the mission with honor. It's not about just finishing the mission. Remember, we want to reduce more injury, PTSD. We want to make sure families are staying together. We want to make sure that we can do what we can to make sure that these bridges and these networks do not fall apart. This is our major mission. This is our main mission over everything else as chaplains. And I'm going to leave you with a few questions. I want you to think to yourself, what gives a warfighter purpose when policy runs out? That's number one. Number two, can resilience exist without meaning? And number three, how should the Navy measure spiritual readiness in today's time? Well, thank you guys. I'll be putting out more content. Hopefully this was informative. Hopefully you guys understand the approach that I'm trying to bring, or the desire. Just to add a small part, the Navy has been in existence for about 250 years, and the Chaplain Corps has been right there with them. And so I just want to make sure that we continue that trend, that we always are doing our part, regardless of what the times may present us. We have an obligation and duty of service. Thank you.